Greetings, dear ones. This is Friday, the 23rd of May, 2025, and we are heading into a holiday weekend, Memorial Day, and I'll talk a little bit about that history and why we celebrate it, not just for retail sales and to get away and have fun and gather together, all of which, yes, are a part of, but I think the history and why we even have it as an official holiday is very important, especially related to the theme for today, which is regression to shadow and through to illumination. And it was very striking this week. I encountered several different clients, friends, colleagues who seemed or felt that they were backtracking, that they were falling into old ways of being, old habits, coming up against old pieces that they had, consistently worked through in the case of my colleagues and friend. And, it can be very, very frustrating. I had a client who's just like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go back. I don't want to look. And at my childhood or my past. And, the reasons why we do not want to are based in the defense system's fear of what will happen if we do so. The child was not capable of, on many levels, of being able to feel on a consistent basis because the patterns that are created within us are not from one-off situations. These are repeated over and over and over instances of lack of protection, of harm in some way, of dismissal in other ways. So many different types of woundings that we each choose before we come here as a means by which we can explore, discover, recover, and reclaim parts of our humanity, yes, or parts of our human selves, yes, but as a result, the expansion to our soul is huge. The experience in a physical form in a very confining, limited dimension allows for a very profound, or the potential for a very profound experience, perhaps even one that as a soul you've never had before. And that's what I find with those that are on a mastery course. I can refer to it as that, or people who have chosen a mastery project for, or projects for this existence. Simply because the possibility of this planet reaching the point of evolution that it's in right at this very moment was high. And you always want to be at the event or the circumstance that is very unique and unlike any other. Be it, for example, Christmas time at Disneyland, or, at a certain place in Iceland when the northern lights are at their strongest. This is what's going on here on our planet. This is the optimum set of circumstances, risks, and within that, the potentials. So you designed this very, very well to have a very unique personal experience as a child, to then again discover, explore, recover the humanness, but as well to achieve something in physical form that you have not done before. And when pain happens, or fear happens, or sorrow happens, or fury happens due to circumstances outside of us, we regress. We regress to the same methods of protection and defense that were created by a very special part of us that prevented us as children to either lose our minds or to leave the planet. And these defenses, as we've become older and smarter, have also become smarter, more flexible, more adaptive, stronger, and more sophisticated. But little does it know that we are no longer 5, 6, 7, 8, 2, 3. It just continues the protections. And that's the choice making that we have. It was funny, this morning's one of this morning's messages was making a choice, and that this is the time to make a choice and to not choose based on the fear of consequences to your life, but instead to actually jump out into that choice and go for it, as we say. And at this point in time, that's getting to seem more and more and more difficult as our freedoms are being curtailed, as more and more control over our lives and what we have access to and what we are provided for by, for example, a democratic government. And, I have people wondering why I speak so much about what's going on currently in our government and in our country and in the world. And it's because, from a Jungian transpersonal perspective, there is no difference in what is going on a larger scale when you seek out the underlying core characteristic or aspect or issue within that. There is a corresponding wounding or experience that we've had in our young lives, giving us the opportunity that, as it's being catalyzed and triggered, to do our processing and not only come to be in a more mature and wider, more expansive state as a human, but moreover, it dispels the appearance or the belief in the controls and limitations and constrictions being put upon us by an outside world, be it a government, be it our, who we work for, be it spouses, our families, etc. And the freedom that comes from within allows us to make those choices and go ahead and make that leap and do what feels well and good and right and true to our internal world, no matter what's going on the outside, no matter the threats, no matter the consequences, as this morning's message came through. And certainly, when those outer circumstances appear to have more power, more force than we do within us, then we tend to regress to those means of protection that were created by our defense system when we were young. And that can look like many things. It can look like complete distancing, numbing out, tuning out everything that's going on, whether it's in the world or in our smaller communities and groups, just pulling away from, even to the extent of isolating. It can also appear like, nothing's wrong. I'm just going to keep going on and doing what I do, and all of that is not my business. But in fact, it is, because it affects everyone. It can also revert to eating habits that are unhealthy, or substance use and abuse. Many different forms that we regress to a similar patterning of defense that our system used when we were little. And when we were young, we did not have any other choice. We did not have any ability to use our power, our knowledge, to be able to change the circumstances in our lives, our families, our parents, etc. We had no leverage. We had no ability to make it different, and we were trapped in that, because until you're a certain age, you cannot go out and make it on your own. You cannot find the means of food and shelter, and as well as being, completely, as I said, powerless, out of control, and trapped. And that's what many are feeling right now. And yet this is leading to an amazing resurgence of connection and community and communicating with one another through different means. And even if that reverts all the way back to how communication, connection, collaboration, and cooperation occurred during, wars. During World War II, there was the resistance. There is a couple of fabulous sources on Substack. If you're not there, I would highly recommend you to do so. I will post in the comments below this video my Substack address, and from there you can hop off and even look at some of the ones that I'm generally following and reading. Fabulous writing, very, very intelligent, not just complaining or whining or gossiping by any means. These are people that are utilizing their skills, their knowledge, their education to elucidate, and also just to express themselves. And I have found some just breathtaking authors, as well as many sources for what we can do as individuals and what we can do as groups. We'd all like to believe, and that's why there is why the control and oppression and limitations and thievery, etc., are getting the upper hand, because we are still also in that place of the child that hopes and wants and needs and longs for the parent to do what they're supposed to do. And our little systems don't even know what that is intellectually, but we do know what that feels like physically, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, even innately, primally. The expectation of our system to, when we're hungry, we get fed. When we're scared, we are being, comforted and made safe. And more often than not, that did not happen. And it doesn't have to look radical in our young lives. Parents take so much for granted as far as children being able to handle things, tolerate things, understand things, and they don't, um, and can't. So, um, I've had so many clients over the years say, oh, my parents didn't abuse me, they didn't starve me, they didn't beat me, I don't really have any major issues. But trauma can occur in very subtle forms. And for those that are here doing mastery projects, many times it is the more subtle ways, the more um, underlying feelings rather than outright harm or abuse. So, I read an amazing piece yesterday, I believe, and, was talking about how this, of course, is bringing forward a level of unsafety, unprotectedness, endangerment, um, abuse, diminishment, devaluing of so many different people of color, people who, practice a certain religion. This has been going on underlying in our society for a long time. And it's coming to a head right now in the drastic um, instances, be it, you know, people being picked up, kidnapped, taken away from their families, and sent off to other countries, including, Sudan, because they've offered to imprison and get something in exchange from our government, just like El Salvador. So we are now at a point where we can no longer not choose, or choose to not see, choose to not feel, choose to not recognize, choose to not take responsibility. Again, another point this morning with the message was taking responsibility for our lives and the choices that we make. So, um, we, like I said, when we're forced to do so, whether through circumstances in our workplace, in our homes, and now in our country, we tend to regress. And oftentimes that regression, we can stay in that and keep looping in it. We can experience the discomfort for a while and then, um, again, choose to ignore it or only feel it. That's a term that I use when we're only experiencing the feelings from upper levels rather than the deeper internal levels where the actual emotion and wounding takes place, or sits, or is hidden, or is stored. And we, are seeing this on a larger scale. We have regressed in history so often. Um, there was periods of enlightenment, and then we went back into um, periods of darkness being again controlled, whether it was by an emperor, a conqueror, another country, um, some sort of religious leaders, or, just again, those that are seeking money and power will do so, will oppress and control and take away the enlightenment, the access to that which allows for expansion as a means of obtaining more control and more power and more money. And that's gone on throughout time. And oftentimes purposefully, designedly creating wars because a lot of profit can be made. And that's over and over and over again and occurring right now. although there are supposedly religious, philosophical, political, you name it, reasons for the wars that are going on, um, it is still the basis of war is to make money for the few. And we're seeing that right now, the potential for that coming into our country, where all of the different programs that benefit people, that help people move ahead, become more than who they are, who they were born, where they were born into. Um, we could go on and on and on about that. And instead, when you take away those potentials for expansion and enlightenment and growth in a population, um, and dedicate all of those funds to the materials of war, which is what's going on right now. If you look at the current bill that unfortunately passed Congress by one vote, as a matter of fact, and it's now in the Senate, and they're making adjustments, and there's people who want to take away, there are senators who want to take a great deal more away. And if you look at, again, please look at the bill, it's thousands of pages, thousand something pages, but it's been whittled down and high points. There's a post on my page about what exactly will be changed, and the dedication to the funds that are being taken from the people to contractors for planes and ships and ammunition, et cetera, is it's gross. It's literally an amount that could benefit everyone in this country. So we're seeing the pumping up of the war machine, the planning for the wars, the benefit to the few that have always been those that provide weapons, those that provide food for the troops, those that provide other equipment. They're all benefiting, and we are the ones that are going to lose if we do not make choices. And one of those choices is letting your voice be heard. And there is a fabulous app called Five Calls. It's on my Facebook page in many places, but you can just seek it whether on Facebook or anywhere else. And it's a fabulous app that when you click on it, it will literally, if you put in your zip code, tell you who your representatives are, give you their phone numbers, can even be hot so that you can literally just click on the phone number and be connected through to their office. And even if you don't know what to say or how to say it, there's a script of how you want to leave a message, because more often than not, there's a message machine. But all of those calls are tallied, all of them are noted, all of your choices are being made to be are being noted. And while we still have somewhat of a representative government, it is going to count. So that's the very least. It takes about 5 minutes. Please, look into what's going on and make your choices. Um, that's the mark of maturity. When we're young, when we're a teenager, we really don't have that much choice. And as we mature, as we become older, we realize that the making of the choices benefits us directly. It's not simply because someone tells us what to do or that there is a threat of some sort of punishment or loss. That, again, is the mark of maturity, even if it's a difficult choice. And so we talk about regression, going back into places where we don't have to make a choice, where we don't feel we have to take that responsibility and numb ourselves out, as I said, with food, with substance, just simply maybe going off into la la land, or, only staying in the positive. That isn't going to work this time. We must go in and through those shadow pieces, whether it's as individuals or as um, a species. And we're doing so right this minute. Um, and there are those who are fighting to not fall into the deepest places and stay there, or the darkest places and stay there. And that's what occurs when we're working with in a one-on-one session and with clients. Um, so often there's many different methods to become cognitively aware and adjust your behavior and make different choices, all of which are wonderful. But for that percentage of people who are here on that mastery course, or, really feel they want to come out and be all of who they are and tap into that inexhaustible courage that allows for um, that almost a do or die position, right? And which, brings us around to a level of sacrifice, and the whole reason for this weekend, that, Memorial Day commemorates those that have fallen in the line of duty, given the greatest sacrifice of their lives in the protection and the preservation of our freedoms. This is not the day to honor all troops, although that absolutely should be done, but this is a day for those who died in the line of service, those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. It started way back in 1868, I believe, after the Civil War, and it was called Commemoration Day. I'm sorry, it was called Decoration Day, because people wanted to honor those that had died and those that didn't have anyone, because they were buried wherever they fell. Unlike, now we can bring the remains and place them however the deceased or the family wishes. In those days, there were battles all over our country, and where they died was more often than not where they were buried. And no one was tending to that, no one was recognizing that, no one was honoring them. And so a group of women did get together and wanted to decorate those graves and mark them, and remember those lives, even when there wasn't anyone to do so, anyone else to do so, their family, etc. And it was made official actually only in 1971. But people did still recognize and celebrate the last Monday, I believe it is, in May. And we have continued that practice. So these honorable beings have given their lives to protect our freedom. How can we not make those choices and those sacrifices, even if it's the sacrifice of our illusion of safety and protection, and nothing's going on, there's still ads on the television, there's still sales, everybody's going away, everybody's eating hot dogs, everybody's having fun, and yet at the same time there is a battle going on for our very form of democracy, for our way of life. If people do not have medical aid, food, opportunities, jobs, economic assistance, then we are losing. We are losing our way of life. We are losing our philosophy. We are losing the potential to continue to be the grand experiment of democracy. Did many things have to be changed? Absolutely. And again, how does this relate to you individually? Individually, we are all, each and every one, here in this country being triggered. If we have not been to this point, then that requires things getting worse and worse and worse. It's a horrible thing to recognize or to say, but it happens in individual lives as well. People keep putting off, they keep tolerating, they keep adjusting, they keep justifying, they keep rationalizing until such time as it's so horrific that they must make a choice, whether it's to change a job, whether it's to change careers, whether it's to change a way of life, physically, no longer continuing with those habits that are destructive to our physical health, to our mental health, to our emotional health, or whether it's choices to perhaps change, our partnership situation, perhaps leaving a marriage that does not work any longer, or a relationship, or friendships, or even settings, communities, if they don't align with what feels right and good to you. And that's a deep down right and good, not our mental idea of what, will work in the meantime. So I find clients, have always done this is very advanced work that I do in a one-on-one with clients. It's very accelerated and it is very much on a one-on-one scale what we're going through on a larger scale. This is a very accelerated evolution process. This is a very deep process because we just can't do things superficially anymore. That's why they're going so radical. We did not participate, we did not take responsibility, we did not choose, for the most part, to involve ourselves in our government and make the changes that we wanted to see. And so now we're all getting kicked in the butt, if you will, to do so. And that may result in having to make radical choices, having to make radical moves, having to do things that we have been avoiding for a very long time. So you're right on time. You're right here in the right moment. You are a very special and advanced soul to be here at this time. And your individual maturation, your individual growth, your individual sovereignty, coming to have and know oneself, is in direct, how can I say it, your particular piece, your particular issues, your particular woundings, because they are reflected on a larger scale, are affecting that that web of or that construct of society, whether it's ours or in other countries. Everyone's going through this. It's not just us. We seem to be the one of the focal points, that I will admit, because we've had a lot of advantages. So this regression has to go through. We have to look at our history, both personal history and national history and global history, species history. We've done this over and over and over again. But the difference being that this is potentially the last time the pendulum swings in the way and to the extent that it has. Once we evolve these deeper human nature aspects that are up for evolution, we will no longer regress back to the levels of primal, primeval, um, you know, base aspects of humanity. So it's a wonderful opportunity. I invite you to, look at the choices that you are making, both in your individual life, um, on a larger scale in your communities, and even more so in our country right now, because things are moving very, very fast. Um, and if we each don't make some of those choices, then we are going to find ourselves in a much graver position and having to work underground and behind the scenes, as has been done throughout history, um, in war times. So, yes, please look into mm, your own sensations of fear and anger. They are powerful, they are purposeful, and they are rooted in your history and on the larger scale in human history. And yes, please reach out if you'd like to do some of that accelerated work for you that will benefit your family, your culture, your heredity, the earth herself. Because again, it is all interrelational. You are interconnected, interwoven, um, with everything that is here and going on, not only with humans, but with nature, with the many species that are involved in this evolutionary process. I'm just going to ask the oils for their message today. I did not do so beforehand because I really was not aware of what the final message for today was until I was preparing the last part of preparation for these talks and deep dives this morning. So I will ask them now. And again, remember that these are young living essential oils that are of the highest therapeutic grade, meaning that there is nothing cutting them. They are of the purest, most organic, and most of them can be ingested, even put on your body, because they are that pure. I would not recommend that for other oils, and of course each one must take their own body awareness into account. And I'm always here to consult, and there's plenty of books to consult as well. So the first oil that came out today is would be going on your third chakra, which is right where your ribs come together, right under that round bone over your diaphragm. And they're inviting us to, well, they're saying, as you grow, this is an oil blend called Grow that actually the company does not make any longer. Fortunately, I still have some. They're saying that as you grow in your sense of yourself and your place in the world and in the universe, it will enable you to breathe in and through your internal anchoring. So that again, the internal is where you're sourced and where your power comes from, where all your knowledge can come from. And it when we turn outside in response to what's going on, or in response to where and how we think we can resolve things, we lose ourselves. So as we grow in our sense of ourselves and our place in the world and in the universe, it will enable us to breathe in and through our own anchoring and life force, so that we access our highest potential, another beautiful blend, by listening to and following our innate, which is about 3 fingers below that xiphoid, that bone that I mentioned earlier, the round bone. And that's a direct line of communication to your soul. That's your gut knowledge. That is your divine master within speaking to you. And again, in case you have not experienced working with the oils in this way before, I am generally with my eyes closed when choosing, and I'm being told where it would go, where the oil would go. This is an oil, a primary oil to me in every way is called Valor, and this would be going on your throat. So giving you that honorable courage to stand in and speak your truth. So that this is an oil blend called Trauma Life, so that any trauma that you've experienced in regard to this essence expression of you be dissolved. Again, bringing full honor to your own passions and power and creativity. This is laurel, which always represents honor, as in, the laurel leaves. And this is an oil blend. It's very old, as you can see. The label is torn off. It's probably 18 years old, 20 years old. And this oil would be where is going on your first chakra, which would allow you clarity in the steps you take along your path. And anybody else? One last one. And this is an oil blend called Life of Passion, so that you may access your multi-existential. I don't use the term dimensional because there's dimensions, there's worlds, there's realms, there's kingdoms, there's other planetoids, etc. So allowing you to live your life of passion by tapping into and channeling from the other existences of you. So one last full statement. As you grow in your sense of yourself and your place in the universe and in this world, it will enable you to breathe fully into your anchoring within yourself, thus allowing you to follow your soul's communication to your highest potential, giving you honorable courage to stand in and speak your truth, resolving, transmuting any traumas to the constriction of your essence self, and in so doing, honoring your life bringing clarity to your passion, your power, your creativity, so that you can live that life of passion. I'm sorry, bringing clarity to the steps along your path so as to live your life of passion by accessing and channeling in the other existences of you through your daily life. So now I would invite you to just get comfortable in your chair or on the couch, wherever you may be sitting. And ideally, knees at right angles, feet on the floor, but I know many people are very comfortable sitting cross-legged. Whatever is comfortable for you, although I would invite you to make sure that your spine is straight so that the energy can flow. And as well, just kind of roll your shoulders back, which will enable your shoulder blades to just come a little closer to one another, opening up your chest, your ribs automatically so that the breath can move through as much and as deeply as possible. And to start out with just breathing normally, maybe taking some deeper breaths, deeper exhales if you so choose, but not holding or controlling. Just allowing for a little bit deeper. When you open up your chest and your ribs and bring those shoulder blades together, it allows for more space for that air to move through all the way down to your anchor point, which is what the oil mentioned as far as breathing through your own anchoring within. And at some point, if you so choose to extend that exhale, that will allow your vagal nerve to become active, which brings so much more relaxation, so much more circulation, so much more balance within your physical system. Both of the sympathetic and parasympathetic system. So deep breath, extending that exhale much longer than the original inhale. And for the purposes of this deep dive, we dive within rather than going up and out. So I would invite you to allow your third eye, your frontal lobe, to just take a back seat here and instead be open and willing for something different. For the diving down and within is a wholly different experience than going up and out to your electromagnetic field alone. And I'm going to call in some of the masters that regularly oversee and set up the sacred geometrics for our container. And that is, as always, the elements of earth, air, fire, and water. I'm going to ask them to bring into right relationship your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies. I'm going to call on the chief to center us within the directions. The direction of the east with Brother Eagle, the direction of the west with Brother Bear, Brother Eagle for illumination, Brother Bear for introspection, Sisters Otter and Porcupine in the direction of the south, reminding us to play and to feel the wide-eyed wonder at all that is going on around us, in our world, in nature, even in what seems to be complex shadow. The wonder of it all. And Our Lady White Buffalo to bring us the wisdom and prayerfulness and patience. In the direction of above with all our cosmic masters, teachers, colleagues who are perfectly aligned and assisting and guiding and leading us. In the direction of below, with all that is lying underground, both in actuality, the many kingdoms and worlds within our planet, as well as the massive engineering and architecture of this reality, or this movie we call reality. And of course, the direction of within. That within us we come to know and feel and rely upon our own divine master within. And I invoke the new way of law, as well as the highest council of universal law, as it is being reformatted, reconstructed, deconstructed for the new way of law to come in. And I invite each of you and your guides, teachers, masters, helpers to now take their seat in this, or take their place in this very complex configuration of not only sacred geometrics, but the means by which all of those different masters, teachers, helpers, etc. can situate themselves for your highest benefit and excuse me, for that of the entire container, the participants that are here, the participants that wished to be here, those that will be listening or participating at some point in the future. For when we move beyond this physical plane, this particular earthly dimension, time and space are not linear, they are not confining. Which is why one may benefit listening even years from now. Participating. You may begin to feel internally sensations, physical feelings, emotional feelings, energetic, movement, tingling. You may begin to even feel a little sleepy. And that's quite all right. Please allow your system to take you in your way down and within you. Allowing for altered states. Allowing for what may seem like a little nap, but in fact is your system opening at more profound levels for the energetics that are being transmitted. Nothing you need do. As a matter of fact, any effort, any pushing, any utilization of training slows down or impedes the process of going down and within. Your body, your energy field, your wider self know exactly what to do, how, and in what pace and rhythm. So let go of any words that I may be saying. And simply allow. No effort in allow. No work. No goal. No intention. We have the animal teacher of turtle with us. Reminding that the process or the exploration or the allowing appear slow, yet the more you allow, the steadier and more profound the depth, the internalization down and into your inner verse. Simply breathe, simply allow. As we are inviting in the current energetics, the energetics of cycles, this being the last cycle of a particular form of exploration that we have been pursuing throughout history of this planet. That has now reached its end game. This last round being the opportunity for each of us and collectively to grow, mature, and become a less separated, less primitive, less destructive species. Where there is war no more. Where poverty is unknown. Where oppression is only read about. As part of our history. Where each individual can follow their passions, their calling, where there is freedom to speak, to act, as long as it causes no harm to another, be it human, animal, or plant. Where differences are celebrated and honored as enriching the whole. Our choice is wide and multi-leveled. And if you so choose, feel that freedom, not in your mind, not in how you think it may be or look, but sensate internally the transmission of freedom and free will on a universal level. for this is your natural state of being. And it is your internal reality. You choose to come and assume the costume of the parameters and limitations of your life as a means by which your soul experiences are added to the whole, the one. Facilitating even more freedom and free will within the exploration of this universe. Feel that freedom as it flows through your physical body, not imagining, not envisioning, not seeing, but simply sensating whatever you may be feeling or not. Freedom is moving in and through every cell, allowing for its optimal functioning and purpose. For in that optimal functioning, many cells must die and be lost. So too must ways of being. The Master Teacher Bat is here to remind of that rebirth. As cells fall away, so new ones are becoming. As old ways of being are transmuted and fall away, So the new form of you becomes. As the old structures and patterns of humanity throughout history deconstruct and are dismantled, concurrently are being developed connections, communities, cooperating, collaborating, communing with one another and the earth. For the new way to come into being. Feel the freedom. Even as the sacrifices are occurring, dying, birthing, infusing your body, mind, emotional body, energetic body. With the freedom to choose. For that is the way of this free will universe. Fitting on this weekend of memorializing, remembering the deathing so that life and freedom goes on. And as always, I encourage you to truly choose to follow your own system in the process of moving from what was perhaps a less physical experience back to a more physical, knowing that your system is unique and your way and your timing and your rhythm and pace is not of any other. So if you choose to stay in this amazing and profound energetic configuration for however long you so desire, please do so. Please come back to it as frequently as you wish for this weekend, particularly this beautiful configuration of freedom and growth, choice is most easily accessed. This will be on Facebook. I will, of course, also post it to YouTube, and if you're on my mailing list, you will receive it as well. If not, then please reach out to me and send your email for updates on what are actually some rather private gatherings that are coming up I'm not making public. So please make sure I have your information, and know that whenever you do choose to come out or come back to this, your system will integrate and consolidate and physicalize all that occurred seamlessly. And I wish you the most beautiful, safe, and wonderful holiday weekend. And please look, I'm going to be posting a blog that I do generally on Memorial Day. I think it's entitled War No More. And it's a good read, I would say. But I would love your comments. I would love hear the ways in which you celebrate those that have given their lives, or those in your family who had experienced the ultimate sacrifice and loss. So, and the ways in which your deathing of parts of you or aspects or habits of you are occurring. And please know that it is always with the deepest of honor, gratitude, and love for your presence here on the planet. Be well.